So more update on the mental side as I walked this morning. Like I said, one of the things you have to deal with is, part of this process, because I believe the stress of the family kind of helped put me in this boat. I don't believe it was complete, but I think the stress from the family, like I said, I was going through a court issue since September of 24, is when I got arrested and charged with 2 felonies. So, and I was going to court every month. Every 30 days you go to court, and then I had to get a job to help pay for the bills. So, and the job wasn't a very good job, but you do what you got to do and stuff. So I have all this extra stuff, and then I think, that add on to the extra stuff from the family, put me in a situation where, I'm at cardiac arrest time. Stress is really hard on the body. We just don't know how hard it is, because it's kind of like that silent thing. Just like high blood pressure, it's a silent thing. It's really doing a number on you. You just don't know how big of a number it's doing until you find yourself, on the other side and everything. But as I was saying before, one of the things is like just coming to terms with my place within the family, feeling like an inconvenience and a nuisance and everything, not really welcoming. And it's been like that for a while, it's been like, but it came to a boil, like I said, back in April and everything. But, one of the things you deal with is the stuff you do, and now they do that stuff, but it's more like we're going to prove to him that, we didn't need him in the first place, even to the point of things I was requesting, when I got out of the hospital about keeping the dogs quiet, and they wouldn't do it. They do it now, take care of the dogs better. I wouldn't do it then. They do it now, but I've been gone, So it's one of those things that's funny that I'm gone from the house, and I think they're doing these things because they seem to be doing them when like I said, I've been gone for a week, come back, they seem to be doing these things. I don't think out of nowhere they would, oh, he's back, so let's start doing it now. So I think they do it now, but like I said, when I requested it for health reasons, didn't do it, So it becomes that thing of, it's like they're trying to prove like, we didn't need him anyways, we can do this ourselves and everything, but like I said, it's just when the request was made, to be a little more quiet, all those kind of things, there was a lot of pushback and anger, and so, I could be misinterpreting it, but that's the only way I can misinterpret it right now, because that's what I see, in a sense, like, when I asked for these things, how come I couldn't get it done then? Because that's what led up to the big final blowout was, me saying, hey, these dogs barking a lot stress me out, and we take it even through a context of things where, just like in disagreement and why I'm in the nuisance and everything, where we got a letter from one of our neighbors saying the dogs were barking too much. And so, I'm thinking, and we get them all. I mean, we got them before, but it's been a while since we gotten one. And they have been barking a lot, And instead of saying, hey, I'm trying to say, hey, this is what I've been talking about, these dogs barking too much, and instead of trying to figure out a way to, like don't let one out by themselves or do this instead or, morning, the wife goes and posts a thing on Facebook, Neighbors, whatever it's called, about this letter she got from the neighbor just inflaming the situation. She was proud of and happy about it, and she's upset that I'm not supporting her on this, and it's like, no, we got to live with these people, the dogs are barking too much. They got a point, her attitude was like, fuck the neighbors. So then I got stress going up because now, like I said, before we got these notes and everything, here where I live at, it's a misdemeanor, so it's a criminal offense. The nuisance is a criminal, not a civil, it's a criminal offense. So prior when we got these was me, they was taking the time to try and document, when the dogs were barking, when other dogs in the neighborhood were barking, where they were coming from. That was me. Nobody else was worried about that stuff. So, because I understand You know, like I said, I'm not, and the house is in my wife's name, so she would have to go through the criminal process, not me. The owners of the house gets to, so it's me trying to say, hey, you know, this is a criminal offense. You don't want to do this. But she didn't care. You know, so it's adding to my stress levels about, you know, I don't want this person to have to go through this. And this person that is about to cause this situation isn't worried about it, you know. So there's a lot of that going on, you know, even with my daughter, you know, you know, one of the things that happened is, you know, she's a poor driver. Simple as that. I don't think she'd be driving, you know, but I mean, she had 3 accidents before she got a license, you know. I mean, she's not a very good driver. She shouldn't be driving. And this is a small town. There's ways to get around. You know, she had friends, catch the bus, walk, whatever the case may be. But my wife is like, no, she needs a car, you know, da-da-da. And I'm thinking like, but she wants me to pay for it. She wants to pay for the car, pay for the insurance, pay for the gas. I'm thinking like, why am I paying for this when I don't even support this, you know? But what did I do? I paid for it anyway. So there's more stress. So anyways, so what brought this blow up too was, you know, where I finally said, I'm not gonna pay for this. And everybody's mad again. Because it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, it doesn't make sense to pay for this stuff, pay for this car to be registered, pay for it to be small, when she shouldn't be driving in the first place. And she has no gas money. And so, you know, one of the things we had talked about was, you know, I asked my daughter to take me someplace to get in the car. There's no gas in the car. I mean, it's on E. I'm thinking like, she's gonna drive around, because that's the nature of this family. She's gonna drive around till it runs out of gas, because she doesn't know that cars run out of gas and they stop. Like, it's not a magical formula and stuff. And so I go in the house, talk to the wife, and I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, why is she driving around? She says, you're not giving her gas money? She said, I don't have any gas money. Well, why is she driving around then? You know, how's this gonna work? She has a job. She has a job 1 day a week. How's she gonna pay for this gas? How's she gonna pay for this car when she has a job, you know? So this is more stress. You know, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, and I had to withdraw from trying to figure these things out. You know, you're trying to help people and prevent things. And so for my stress levels, I had to withdraw. You know, and that's one of the reasons, like I said, I just couldn't be around this anymore, because, you know, the things that can be avoided are not being avoided. It's like, you know, you see the train, you know, coming, see the other train coming, and you got enough time to put on the brakes, but nah, let's just see what happens. And then I know when to clean up the mess and everything that comes from it. So that was a big issue and everything. So it's just stress and more stress, you know. You're trying to avoid things, and they seem to just want to go head on into these things and everything. And so, you know, and that's one of the complaints the wife had about stuff was, you know, I always thought it was right. And it's like, I'm not right. I'm just trying to avoid these situations that look like they're going to be popping up, you know. And so sure enough, summer comes, and guess what? The daughter only has a job, and she's only working 1 day for the whole month. 1 day for the whole month. So how's she gonna pay for her gas now? How's she, you know? And so it's like craziness. And I, you know, I tried to tell the daughter to get, you know, apply to other places, you know, but she didn't. So that's where we're at with that right now, you know. But you have a person not applying for jobs. You have another person expecting to pay for this car and these activities we want to do this summer, but no income. And I'm not gonna, and so, and usually the income came from me, you know, but I'm not supplying that income anymore because I just can't and everything. So that's a lot of the other stuff that's going on. So, you know, like I said, to feel like, you know, when you request these things and you explain to them, you know, that's something I couldn't do a couple of weeks ago. Craziness. That's another physical. I couldn't do that. I couldn't, if someone's in my lungs, I couldn't hack it up to spit it out. Craziness. So, but that's part of this thing about, you know, inconvenience and things like that where, yeah, more like we're going to do this to show him up that we didn't need him. Not, you know, like I said, when I requested these things, hey, yeah, because we care about him, we want him to be around. That's no big deal to let all the dogs out instead of letting one out and have the other two bark the whole time, you know, or, you know, hey, we can help out getting up at nighttime to let the dogs out instead of him having to get up every 3 hours, you know. I mean, just craziness. A simple request, hey, one of the things that I requested too was, because in this family, I grew up in a family where you greet people. You get out of your room, you come into the main room, you see somebody, you say hello, good morning, something, anything. You come home from school, you see somebody, hey, how was your day? Whatever. These guys walk right past me. And so I got tired of feeling like I didn't exist. And so I just say, hey, all I ask is that if you see me, greet me. It was simple. Once again, backlash. You think you're the king. You think that, it was just backlash. Like, that's kind of, once again, simple stuff. And man. So that's where we are, folks. That's a little more backdrop on things, and a little current update. Just on, feeling like I said, inconvenience, and everything. So, but I'll be at the house for a couple of weeks and I'll be gone again. Off on the road traveling. Like I said, I'm doing all I can to make sure stress levels are down. According to my data, heart rate variability, breaths per minute. Like today, yesterday it was 45, today it's 40, but still above 40. Breaths per minute is down to 14. So all indications are, morning. All indications are that the system is calming down. So now the goal is to keep it calm. So there you have it, folks. Y'all enjoy yourselves.